Hi everyone, my name is Aurelia. I'm a Sport and Recreation Development Officer here at Sport Northeast. So I just want to thank you all for joining us today for our club culture and leadership workshop. I hope by watching this presentation, it will give you a bit of assistance with your club development or even your personal development. So I'd like to start off this presentation by doing an acknowledgement of country. The Centre, including Sport Northeast, celebrates the lands and the waters that give us life, into which the stories, songs, ancestors and dreamings of First Nations people are woven. May we pay respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, past and present, for their generosity and custodianship of country, for they hold the memories, tradition and the culture. So just in case this is your first time joining one of our workshops, I'd like to quickly go over and do a small introduction of Sport Northeast and tell you a little bit about what we do. So Sport Northeast is one of 9 regional sports assemblies in the state of Victoria, Australia. So our core purpose is to support people of all ages and abilities in the Northeast communities to live an active lifestyle and participate in sport and active recreation. So we typically work with sporting clubs, associations, community organisations and local people in 5 different local government areas. So these include Alpine, Indigo, Tawong, Wangaratta and Wodonga. So in today's workshop, we'll be covering what club culture is, why it's important, exploring the difference between strong and weak club culture, and importantly, ensuring how you can get strong club culture in your club, and also be digging into the effective leadership skills and some tools and resources to help you. So if we look at defining what club culture is, it's quite a mixture of the expression of a team's values, attitudes, and beliefs about sports and competitions. So it may determine the performance of players, members, and volunteers, and whether a club is actually set up for success or failure. So it's really important to remember that every club could have their own definition of club culture. So it could be either to win leagues, create more participation opportunities, open pathways for younger players, or creating a positive environment for your volunteers, players, club officials, and your supporters involved. So it's also really important to ask yourself right now what success looks like for your club and how you can do that by creating a positive club culture to support that. However, it's really, really important to be able to create a balance between winning and losing. Sometimes this can really create unhealthy competitions and could impact your player retention, making it quite difficult to retain players. So let's dig a little bit deeper and have a look at some differences between strong and weak club culture. So in order to establish a positive club culture, we need to ensure that everyone is on the same page regarding clear communication of club policies. And of course, this can include creating a safe and welcoming space that ensures everyone is respectful of each other, despite the many differences that we may have. And of course, being inclusive. So creating these things will encourage, of course, athlete development opportunities, positive spectator behaviour and family engagement. So you need to ensure that these policies are in place in order for your club to follow what it stands for and to help guide you better. So of course, it's totally understandable that on the other side of the spectrum, you can have weak club culture, and this can actually set your club up for failure. So if you see a lot of unresolved conflict, poor spectator behaviour, and having this winning at all costs mindset, this can all really, really impact on the frequent club dropouts or retentions of players. So this club culture actually really does make or break your club. It's really critical that you do create a strong club culture. So you're probably wondering, okay, it's really important, but how can I establish a strong club culture? So this is where we really discuss the importance of leadership. So creating positive club culture typically starts from the top. So either your committee or, for example, I'm going to use the example of a coach. So if we look at a coach that has zero tolerance for poor behaviours such as bullying, it really does filter down to the rest of the team, almost like a role model for younger players and members. So another example, so if you're a coach and the team is 2-0 within the last 10 minutes of the game left to play. And you're saying the only option on the bench are younger players. So would you be willing to take a chance on those younger players, or would you bench a player who has been training for the best they can a chance to be involved? So why is this even important, and why are we even asking this question? I suppose it's really, really important to give those younger players a chance. So this creates a welcoming and inclusive team environment where players can feel comfortable and even feel a part of the experience. So without giving those younger players a chance, there eventually comes a point where your club may experience retention issues and participation decreases in the long term. So if we are looking at effective leadership skills, you need to be able to have these skills in order to create a positive club culture with your leaders. So there needs to be someone who is positive, flexible, a really good communicator, especially giving feedback, and someone who is creative, has mutual respect and commitment. So I'll just give you a chance to think about that now. Do your current leaders or your upcoming leaders, do they have these skills? And if they don't, is there a way that you can upskill them if they don't? So now I'm just going to play a quick video which talks a little bit about those effective leadership skill traits a bit more, just to help create a better understanding.
If you're likable, if you can communicate, and you can be a great time manager, I think that a lot of those traits you see in some of the great leaders in the world.
Things are changing so quickly in the world of business and sport that if you're wedded to one particular way of doing things, the chances are that will become quite obsolete quite quickly. So I think the ability to adapt and change and have the resilience to see it through, I think are two pretty key traits there.
Dealing with all of that complexity, all of the diversity, requires sensitivity, requires flexibility, requires an ability to listen.
For me, I think being able to stand by your principles and act upon your gut feel are really important parts of taking a leadership role.
In the world of sport, I suspect it's a combination of experience, knowing the sport inside out, believing that clean sport is an absolutely essential part of the makeup of all sport.
I still think you need to be direct and honest. You need to be able to communicate a clear message of what you want, but also enable your employees to make decisions, to make recommendations, and to be open to their thought process as well.
The most important trait of a successful leader is to be able to create a strong and inspiring vision that will create energy into an organisation, change if needed, but inspire employees and the organisation to achieve great things.
I hope that video was helpful. It really does speak in depth more about what we looked at on the previous slides, and really emphasises those leadership skills to assist with developing a positive club environment and culture. So as I mentioned before, leadership really starts at the top. So your committees can actually play a huge role in creating a positive club culture. So I'm just going to quickly touch over committee positions. We actually do have an upcoming workshop specifically on governance, so I won't get too much into this, as that will be really, really great if you're interested in knowing more about governance, that workshop. But anyway, so in committee positions, you can have president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and also volunteer coordinators. So your committee normally operates as a team, so you work towards a common goal. This means that everyone should commit their sufficient time and commitment to the committee roles, as well as appropriate understanding of your role and the skills, and also the appropriate modes of communication and technology required. So how does a leadership impact culture? So people are inspired by vision. They want to follow a leader who shows concern and values that are important to them. So a positive leader will inspire 100% effort from everyone. So good leadership means visionaries and strategic thinkers. empowerment, so responsibility, accountability, and authority, and also supports your club's shared values. Once again, this all goes back to having those leadership skills, but overall, you need to be a very visionary and strategic thinker. So there's actually some tools that can really help out in utilizing for you and your club. So there is something called a SWOT analysis. So this can help to assess leadership skills, your club successes, and areas that you may need improvement in. The second tool is a strategic planning outline. So this can help you figure out your club's culture and ensure if it will be successful in the future. I'll mostly go over the SWOT analysis as I think that's really helpful, whereas the strategic planning can be a little bit more in depth, and we actually will have an upcoming workshop on just specifically strategic planning because it's really important, but unfortunately I won't have enough time to go over that today, and it really needs a specific video on its own to really emphasize and explain that. Why do we use a SWOT analysis? So it is a proven management tool which helps your club to assess high-level strategic planning to help you identify what you're actually doing well and where you can improve to assess your leadership skills and abilities. So it can help you identify management problems, find solutions and recommendations for your club. So it provides you really the opportunity to be honest and do a check-in with yourself as a leader on the quality of your work, motivations, and your future self. How often have you been able to take time to address issues and give yourself some well-needed praise for what you're doing and what you can actually improve? SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So we'll go over this a little bit more in the next slide. So I've just popped an example of a SWOT analysis here. So there's the strengths and the weaknesses. These are our internal analysis. These are things that we can try to control. And then you've got your opportunities and your threats, which are your external analysis. So if we look at the strengths here of this example, FC Barcelona, they're saying they've got a strong brand name, they've got distinctive culture, youth academy, and their revenues are their strengths. And if we look at their weaknesses, they've got weaknesses in their financial situation, they lack a clear vision, and their transfer policy as well. So if we look at the opportunities that they have, so they've got the opportunity to expand their presence and their fan base around the globe, and they've got an opportunity to be a super league. If we look at the threats, these are things that, of course, I mentioned before, we can't really control, but it's good to have them just listed so then we can try to actually have a plan of, okay, be more proactive. If this happens, oh, we've already calculated this as a threat. So you have a better idea of how to move forward and become more resilient as a club. So the threat that's been listed here, of course, as we know, it has been a big issue for the last 2 years, COVID-19 and economic uncertainty. And of course, competition, inability to buy and keep top players, and dependency on champion leagues and bankruptcy. So I've actually developed a more specific sports organisation specific SWOT. This is more relevant, I suppose, to community sports rather than the previous example that we just showed. So if we look at the strengths and the weaknesses, these are our internal analysis. So this is things that we can actually try to control within our club. So these strengths, some strengths examples that I've listed here are, as a club, you may have a really well-structured and enthusiastic and positive committee members. That's really great. And as I mentioned before, this also links into having strong leadership skills in the committee and how important that is for a strong club culture. Some more examples, you can have a really strong financial base, you can have really skilled and capable volunteers, and you can have really great diversity in your club. So there's all really important strengths that you can have. Some weaknesses that can occur. So you can have a weak financial base. You can have a really overworked and tired committee. Despite them having really strong leadership skills and being very positive and enthusiastic, they're still human. and most of the time are only volunteering. So overworked and tiredness can really occur, and that's something that you should be listing in your weaknesses and seeing how you can overcome this instead of having committee members drop out. So there could be a lack of interest in sport, no support or strategic plan in place. So those are really important things, as I mentioned, for developing strong club culture, and poor committee structure and leadership skills. So once again, that also impacts your club culture. Then you've got your opportunities and your threats. These are things that typically are a little bit out of our control, but it's really important that we do write these down, as I mentioned before, so we can be a bit more proactive instead of reactive. And that way we say, okay, this has happened. I know, like, I already had this in mind, so I can be more resilient and move past this quicker, rather than not even thinking about it at all or not preparing for it properly. So some opportunities, of course, you can have more promotion of the specific sport to different genders. So, for example, football, a club may have previously only catered to male players, and now this could be a really great opportunity to open up to all codes and include girls as well. You can have upskilling of your committee members and your volunteers. Once again, maybe they lacked leadership skills, or maybe they lacked other things. There could be an opportunity for someone to actually upskill them and train them properly, instead of saying, okay, you're not doing a great job, and just like leaving them out. Opportunities as well, funding opportunities. This is really important to have thought about, because of course, even though most sporting clubs are not for profits and you're not making much of a profit, of course, funding is really important. We actually do have some getting grant ready and grant writing workshops coming up. If this is something that your club is struggling with, or you're not too sure about, I really recommend giving them a watch when they do get released on our Sport Northeast YouTube channel, and always feel free to get in touch with us. And then I'll just quickly go over the threats as well. So with the threats, these are things that, as I mentioned, you can't really control sometimes, but it's really good to have them written down and prepare for them. So it could be time-related issues. This could be related to the committees. So obviously committees have other lives outside of their committee roles. They might work full-time, they might have a lot of other commitments, family, etc. So that could be a threat, obviously, to your club. You could have COVID-19 uncertainty, which I'm sure we've already had a lot of, and hopefully only moving up from here. But it's always really good to sort of have that threat in mind, because we've been through it, and maybe we can figure out ways to move past it by having it as a threat as well. And then obviously you can have similar sport clubs open up, and that could be a bit of a competition. So it's good to have that written down as a threat, just in case that does happen. So the second tool that I mentioned would be really beneficial for maintaining a positive club culture is strategic planning. So a strategic plan is like developing a future roadmap plan for your club to help you guide direction forward. So I really recommend having your SWOT analysis in place first, and that way you can develop a strategic plan. And by really concentrating on the SWOT analysis, especially at this stage of the workshop and the presentation, I think it'll be really beneficial to have that already drawn up and written up when we do have our strategic plan workshop that will be released by Sport Northeast. And having that SWOT really makes you think about your weaknesses, your strengths, and how you can better prepare for those things. Why do we use the strategic plan? So it helps us to create a clear vision of our priorities as a club in order to act as a framework for our future decision making as well. And it really allows your club to be as proactive instead of reactive. So we do have a resource package as well with the presentation today, and it will be available on the Sport Northeast website or you can ask us to email it to you, whatever is more convenient for you. Even shoot us a message on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Thank you all for joining this workshop today. And don't forget to reach out for support. Like, there's state sporting associations in your bodies. You've got online resources. If you need any help with those, feel free to just contact us and help you out with any online resources you may need. A really important thing is making sure that you're networking with other clubs, seeing what works for them, sharing what works for you, and just trying to help each other in that sense, because you may be able to understand each other better by sharing your experiences. And of course, you can always contact us at Sport Northeast. I'll leave our details below. And yeah, thank you so much for being a part of this workshop. We hope to see you in future workshops. Thank you and take care.